Okay. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. City Planning Board meeting for Monday, October 22nd. Item number 1, the Planning Board application 2018-13, 3 Circle Grove. We do have a short form seeker. This is a site plan review proposed retaining walls, site grading, and related improvements for 3 Circle Grove. The applicant is Michael Racine. The plan prepared is Robert M. Sullivan.
Copies. There was a revised map that was sent in today, just for everybody's reference. The applicant was before the plan the zoning board last Monday, where they asked for some modifications. So the plan that you see up here tonight, I have some extra copies if you need them. Is slightly different than the one that was submitted originally due to that modification of the zoning board that requested. Basically, we were here last month. The board couldn't act obviously because we were waiting for the county planning board's rule, but there were some questions raised by your board, asking for some additional clarification on some items. So we've submitted a revised application. I believe most of us were here last month. We'll go over quickly. Mr. Racine is currently under construction for a single-family residence at 3 Circle Grove. The lot, as it exists, slopes from Circle Grove, which is on the left-hand side of the area of the position, to the right, the east, down about 13 feet across the lot. So very difficult to develop due to that slope and placing a home on it. What we were asked to do is prepare a site grading plan, landscaping plan, as to how we're going to address the grading and the stormwater. As is proposed, there's a 3-foot tall retaining wall along the property line, along the north side and the east side. On the north side, due to the proximity to the property line, it's a little hard to terrace, what's allowed by zoning, 3-foot vertical to 3-foot horizontal steps. So there is a second wall on the north side, which would be probably 6 feet tall at the far east side, obviously 3 feet on the left-hand side, so about 50-foot section of wall that would exceed that. As I mentioned, we went in front of the zoning board for a special use permit, which is what the requirement is to do if you can't terrace. The board voted unanimously to approve that special use. What they asked for is originally we had 3 tiers in that northeast corner, where now we're proposing 2. They asked that we do that bend so that the northeast originally went due north and turned 90 degrees. They asked for that chamfer, which helped pull that angle down and shorten up the higher wall on the north side. So this is the revised plan. We've submitted to you a laundry list of other items that were requested by the board. You asked for a copy of all the meeting minutes from the zoning board meeting that were provided to you. There was some clarification as to the electrical easement that runs on the east side of the property. MLD's electrical easement, which is a transformer in that northeast corner. There's an email in the packet, response back from MLD, basically saying they have no objection to the placement of that wall, as long as Mr. Racine placed an extra conduit for future use if ever needed. We've also gone through some stormwater. Looking at a single-family lot, I think this is probably the first time this board has ever reviewed a site plan for a single-family residential lot, but we've actually gone through the hydraulics. The issue obviously is a lot of the modern software is designed for slightly larger developments, usually 5 acres or greater, but we tried to model the site the best we could to demonstrate how the plan is presented with the stone and drainage along the east side would basically act as an infiltration basin, infiltration trench. The storm water from the site, once developed, the house and the rear would flow into that infiltration trench and eventually go out to the existing drainage swale along the south side of the property. So we've given you those calculations. The west half, the driveway and the front yard would drain out to towards Circle Grove, so that will not go towards the easterly neighborhood. We've also provided you a rendering from the landscape designer showing how the proposed trees on the backside of the wall, what they would look like in the end, and how they provide additional screening. We've also, as of this afternoon, received a phone call from the city's attorney accepting, there was a question about discharging to that easement. And the city's attorneys agreed that as long as our design does not increase the rate of runoff, as you do with commercial large scale projects, that he would be acceptance to that. We've also given you photos in the packet that show what the swale looked like prior to construction, what it looks like today. Obviously there is, still work to be done. So when you look at it now, so all the sand, where it was, the project received basically cease and desist order from the code enforcement officer until such time that we receive final approval from you. And there's a letter clarifying that because that was a question as to what the status of the order was. So we provided you lots of additional information. Mr. C is also willing to wrap the stone wall with a pressure treated dressing. Details provided on the drawing to help soften the aesthetics of that cement wall. So I think there's a lot of information that was submitted to you. There was also a concern about the stability of the block sections. We have done a quick structural analysis, and basically, it would be what's classified as a mass wall, meaning the mass of the blocks is strong enough, and the friction between the blocks and the underlying soil are sufficient to resist the applied loads. So I have some quick calculations that kind of show that, as designed, there's still a 200% factor of safety in the overall design to prevent the blocks from sliding, so I can do that.
Can you put that right on record?
For the record. So tonight, we're here obviously, so I think for the first time ever looking at a single-family residential site plan, so it's a little unique. Obviously, entertain questions that you may have. There was a lot submitted, I'm sure you've all read it, but obviously here to answer questions or clarify any comments that you may have.
You've definitely gone through and provided additional information, addressed a lot of our initial questions. I'm sure that the other board members will have some questions. My primary question for this, and part of what I feel was referred to us, was the drainage. Mm-hmm. I've heard about the opinion, third party, about city council. I'd like to make sure that we have something in record in writing, as well as you as the applicant. Yeah. Now, part of that also discussed third party review of the report.
The board feels additional review was warranted beyond we provided. Maybe Greeks or a lot of the other things you probably don't understand it, but we did do the hydrocad analysis. But obviously, if you're looking to have, I know you no longer have an engineer on staff, so if that needs to be reviewed, that's well within your prerogative. Again, very unique, I guess, situation we have. There are other lots in the direct neighborhood that have steeper slopes, as great of grading, that have been constructed. Obviously, there wasn't the public concern, so I think a lot of the other ones have gone through. You look at other projects that have been developed in the city, really what has commonly been used by the code enforcement officer, at least in my experience, is that when you see the exceptions from site plan review, it's anything less than 10 parking spaces when it comes to residential. So all these fourplexes and duplexes that are built throughout the city on a monthly basis don't come to you because they're exempt. This is probably, as I said, this is the first time in my 25 years of coming before you that I've seen a single family lot go to this extreme of proof of design.
And I believe that this was based on a referral from the building department and the
came from Joe. There's no question.
City attorney based on conditions of the site and their building permit. So once again, with that said, I would like to have something more formalized from the city's attorney, so that that's definitely on record.
Yeah, I think we both got the call like 4:30 this afternoon.
Yeah, it's my understanding about part of that was his discussion of the third party review, which the city has a process for that now. Seeing the change with the engineering department. Otherwise, my one other question is, on your plan detail, you show where the planting, you know, like you have tree plantings on the step, on the, would be the north property line,
Yes,
but you show tree plantings all the way around.
correct. It'd be plantings behind the wall
So-
on the entire east side, so I did not provide a separate detail to show.
Like distance
Right.
from that, you know, that depression of the gravel, the shallow swale, you know, you're
Right.
gonna have it such a
Yep.
distance.
Would there be any concern with roots going into the drainage pipes at all?
Yeah, I mean, the cedars are usually shallow rooted, so, you know, based on the height of the wall, the 2 feet, the placement of where they're gonna go, you know, it's very uncommon to see a cedar tree root that deep, so we would not see that. Although there are vegetation that would have that problem, but again, cedars, you don't see that type of depth.
And the plantings are on the west side of the wall, correct?
Our side of the wall.
Okay.
On your final plan, if you could just supplement on the detail,
Yep.
you know, distance, the tree, you feel the tree
Absolutely.
should be away from the swale, that'd be good. So that's my comments. I don't know if the board has any other thoughts, questions?
So can you give, you've got in the, you've got a solid drain pipe and then you've got a perforated pipe, right? Which it seems like that solid is still gonna direct that runoff with some velocity when it comes out. Can you talk to us about why it's one perforated and one solid and how that
Yeah,
works?
I mean, again, the original design was to all be perforated. The contractor mistakenly used some wrong materials, so basically, you know, as I mentioned, you know, we are not done with construction, so what you see out there is not done. So the back of the wall has to be re-excavated to install the additional stone, the additional pipe, put the fabric in to prevent that migration of silts through the wall that, you know, you could potentially have through the cracks. So, you know, there's still a lot of work to be done, but again, we received a cease and desist order. So, you know, all of the surface water would hit the swale drain down, and the goal would be to reconnect all of the gutters that are in that perforated pipe. You know, the idea is, you know, I'm not looking to take out the wall and remove that pipe.
So can you, is there no on your plan, just 4-inch solid drain pipe abandoned in place?
And then you're not taking out the concrete blocks. You're going in to lay that other pipe. You're not taking the concrete blocks out. You're covering them with wood.
Correct.
Okay.
Say that one more time, you're
The concrete blocks are not coming out.
correct.
They're excavating behind them to lay the perforated pipe.
Right, okay.
Rather than take out the concrete blocks, they're covering them with pressure treated wood
yeah.
rails.
To make it look like fencing, is that?
If it was done, it would look like a fence / bench, and it'll be
Yeah.
a wall or two. That's
bench.
Pressure treated.
Is there a top on it as well, or is it
Yes.
just the
Yeah,
front?
the pressure treated vertical on the front, and then horizontal, you know, lengthwise on the top.
Is that less expensive than moving the blocks back and planting the cedars on the east side of the wall?
Probably realistically, there's not much difference, I would say. By the time you get larger machine back there, pick them up, move them up, re-excavate everything,
Right.
dig out the stone, put planting material. It was an option that we provided to help. You know, the goal was to lessen the concerns of the neighbors that they raised the appearance of the concrete blocks.
Right.
And obviously moving the wall further would start the grading further. which would
Right.
then lessen the amount of usable yard we would have.
Okay, so that's why the blocks are right on the line,
Correct.
as much as you could use,
Yeah.
basically. Okay.
Well, it gives it a good clean line at least, because cedars have a tendency to grow really wide, quick. So,
Yeah, it'll grow and cover up at least the top of that.
yeah.
By the time you get done the treatment on that block, are you still behind the property line,
Yeah, the property line's about 3 to 4 inches in front of it.
in front of it?
There's actually, I think one of the photos, hard to see clarity, but there's a string line actually up the front side of the blocks in one of the photos that shows that it's.
No. So the solid pipe is coming out and the perforated is going in?
It's all staying there, obviously, because we'd have to
Right.
get to it, we'd have to tear everything out completely.
Gotcha.
So the goal is to basically put it back the way it was being intended to help promote infiltration, so utilize appropriate pipe. So that additional pipe, additional stone, the fabric, all that still needs to be done.
Oh, okay, I got you.
There's still a lot of work to be done on that wall before it can be.
Okay.
We do have a letter from one of the neighbors, which we'll read into, maybe it's good to read into the minutes now.
This is from Nasira Bulgar from One Circle Grove. This is the neighbor to the north of me. Whom it may concern, my name is Nasira Bulgar. My husband and I are owners of One Circle Grove. My property is adjacent to 3 Circle Grove. I am writing to inform that I oppose any retaining wall over 3 feet being built beside my property. I have complained to the city on multiple occasions about my property being touched during the building process of 3 Circle Grove. On the 20th of September 2018, a case was ruled in my favor. Michael Racine removed 120 cedar trees from my property, and I'm going to be replacing them soon. All I ask is that any retaining wall being built remain on Michael Racine's property and not include my own. Should not include not even an inch from my property. If Mr. Racine is granted anything beyond what the law permits, I will be sure to contact the authorities in charge. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Nasira Bulgar.
I guess just for the record, that letter was also entered into the record at the zoning board meeting. They considered the special use permit.
Were the trees ripped off of their property, or was that on,
The trees were gone before I was present there. They looked as if they were planted literally right on the line. There are some remaining in the northeast corner that are on both sides of the line, so it's, you know, I think there was a settlement agreement, and I think as she noted, she's going to hedge back in front, right on her property, in front of the proposed wall that we're putting. So it'll be her hedge, our wall, our hedge, and our wall again.
now, is there already a contract with, looks like Mossbrook to put those hedges up the way it's seen on there?
We've asked them to put together a proposal.
Okay.
We have not retained them yet, but they have put together a number and put together the renderings with the proposal. But obviously, they will all be for the plan.
In the, so the retaining wall on the north side, that's still on hold pending our approval?
Approval.
North side?
Yeah, the north side. Once again, I don't know, have you done any other work on the site since?
Nothing's been done, no retaining walls. I mean, the house has a building permit to construct, so the house has been being worked on.
Yeah.
But none of the retaining walls have been cleaned up, finalized. Nothing on the north side has actually been constructed yet. I think there's a silt fence right on the edge of the property. This is
So how far is where is the retaining wall in relationship to the property line on the north side?
the zoning ordinance allows for 0 offset, so the proposal is the lower wall will be at the property line.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Property
Lower
line.
At the property line.
At the property line?
Right.
Okay, and based on that, you don't have, along there, you don't have any issues with access to actually construct that?
Well, everything will be done from our side, obviously.
That's what I'm asking.
And then, right, so there'll be no equipment on her side, and if we have to look at sheathing or whatever methods to install that wall, you know, that's on the owner to do.
To
Right, so
stay
we are
on
not
that?
allowed, and we will not be trespassing on the neighbors to the north to construct it.
Okay, and the reason I figured this was a good bridge was that goes into my next question about on the block, that's already in place on the east property line. Is there any part of that you have concern about installation being right on the property line?
As I said, the string line was proposed, that wall is about 3 to 4 inches off the property line. That's fully in place, and there's nothing that's been
So we're not-
projected beyond the boundary line.
You know, once again, we're not creating a scenario where you're gonna be on the neighbor's property to install any of those improvements? Okay, okay.
Do we have this rendering we can put up there or no?
I don't know. Really?
I
It's in there if you go online, the quality may not be like there's something, but
It's the rendering. Looking from the east. Yeah. Well, no, that is the current house, I believe. These cedars are there, and this, I'm assuming it's got plywood.
The picture of the wall. That's what I heard.
They're gonna put,
It's gonna have.
they're gonna put plywood over that, yeah.
Right there it is. Can you turn that, or? There you go.
Scan pictures of it.
That's all right.
Well, your technical solution there.
Okay, so the plywood's gonna, or it's gonna be vertical. I was thinking horizontal for some reason. That makes more sense, okay.
Looks good.
It's an option, I don't.
So we've got the drainage issue addressed. And as, well, I mean, we've talked about that, but the wall on the east side, there's no necessary variance for that, correct?
On the,
That's advantage to what?
no variance.
No variance was
No.
needed for the east wall.
No, there is no variances required for the construction of any of the walls. It's a special use permit only
Special
when you cannot do a 3-foot by 3-foot tier.
But to
So we
install,
use that.
okay,
So the blocks out there are only 2 feet, so technically by ordinance, we're allowed to actually have a foot taller wall on the property line. The ordinance does not specify, it talks about stability and, maintenance, but it doesn't tell you what it has to be.
so you only need
It could
a,
be block, it could be stone, it could be wood, it could be,
okay. So you only need a special use permit for the north wall because of the,
because the tiering exceeded
Right.
3-foot by 3-foot.
but no special use for the east wall, because there was no tiering.
Fully compliant.
The only reason that's coming into play is because it wasn't included in the original plan, is that correct?
Our understanding is that there was an original plan that originally we called for just basically having a steep soil bank at the property line. Mr. Decine, with his contractor, felt that the blocks gave better stability to that slope, so he started moving forward with that without final authorization from the code enforcement officer. So he asked us to basically stop, cease and desist, and come to you to make sure that, I
Okay.
guess you were happy with that. As I mentioned, we've done
Right.
many walls on many residential properties, and this would be a first for us.
So it would have just been a regular slope with grass planted? Is that what the original
It
plan
could have been, but
called
what it
for?
does is just basically makes a larger portion of the yard less usable because it just increases the length of the slope.
Right. Okay.
So when you were last here, we had pictures of the concrete blocks, and some had shifted and had moved a bit. Nothing's been done to the wall at this point, so it's still in the same shape it was then. I guess I'm curious about how the new plan will address that shifting and the movement of those blocks. We had pictures, or so if they didn't move, then they weren't installed straight and level.
It follows the contour of the ground,
Okay.
so if you look close, you would see that the blocks are gonna fall.
If there's a little
apart,
waiver.
and that's where you would see any.
So you get minor
difference in the block.
gaps between them because of that undulation.
Yeah.
But again, by finishing the job, by putting the stone and putting the fabric, will prevent the migration of sands through those vertical seams. So again, it's,
But the strings have been there, and it has been moved closer to the string, and you did the calculations and everything.
right. So we give you a stability analysis, and so, we're comfortable, I mean, we've used these blocks for aggregate corrals or other retaining walls, and we have them stacked, 4 or 5 high, holding back, 10, 12
Yeah.
feet of our.
Not in residential districts, all right?
I'm sorry?
In residential districts?
Adjacent to residential districts? But again, the ordinance does not dictate what construction you must use for a wall. And obviously, we receive the concerns of the neighbors, and that's why we've gone the extra step, proposing the wood, which is above and beyond what the ordinance does require.
Now, just because it looks like a fence to me now, I mean, if he had just put a fence up, there's no variance for a fence, correct?
There's no variance for this. This is 100%
Correct, okay.
compliance with the ordinance.
Right.
Right.
It just wasn't part of the original, wasn't part of the original plan. That's why
There's
it's,
retaining walls throughout the city.
right,
Some people use riprap, some use this. This just happens to be the only one that's ever come to you.
okay.
It looks like a fence, but it's only 2 foot high, right? It's only
Blocks are only 2 feet tall.
2 feet. Yeah.
Right, so we
It's
could
almost
go-
like a
we could
large-
go a foot taller, we could put a 6-foot fence, we could put, all these things are allowed by the ordinance.
think that ultimately the applicant is correct on that, or Aaron's correct on that. I mean, you gotta recognize the reason this is here in front of us was referral by the building department based on an enforcement action. That's
Again,
what
when
it
the
was.
building
This
department referred
was,
it to you, you did not have a hydraulic report
yep.
or the stability to basically justify those.
I was gonna
Whether or
say,
not if he had those prior to doing it, whether that would satisfy him, we don't know. You know, we are here because we're here. You know, so we've given you additional information, you know, addressing the concerns that we feel the board has had.
is there any other comments? If not, we did have one other thing to be read into the, I believe only one other comment from the county planning board to be read in.
Clinton County Planning Board. The Clinton County Planning Board at its September 5th, 2018 meeting voted 7-0 to consider this request a local issue, but to provide the following comments to the city. The adjacent neighbor to this project provided photographs and information that brings up many of the problems with allowing retaining walls on the actual property line, or in some cases allowing them at all. This is a dense residential area, and drainage issues are certainly impacted easily by the addition of fill and creation of a retaining wall, especially at 6 feet in height in some places. The impact on neighboring lots is not easy to quantify, but they are generally negative, not positive. The impacts of additional water runoff from this property onto surrounding properties should be closely reviewed. In most cases, retaining walls should not be permitted in property boundaries, especially within dense residential areas. The aesthetic impacts on neighboring properties are also substantial as well. It is often left to the neighbor to keep weeds cut and prevent the lower side of the retaining wall from being overgrown with brush, which often is not done. This project also appears to be built with drainage from the roof of the structure dumping onto neighboring properties with non-perforated pipe as well. This should be unacceptable to the city planning board. Sheridan Gardner, chairperson.
As a response to that, I'm not sure. We were not present at the meeting, but I don't know if they were looking at what was submitted to you 2.5 months ago that wasn't referred to the county.
Versus
Obviously,
today.
This map, because that was from Monday's meeting. So whether or not, I don't know if the supplemental stuff got forwarded down to them, so they didn't have the hydraulics or anything like that at that point to review. So it is a local issue.
I was gonna say, that was gonna be one of my points, is that either way, it was granted a 7-0 approval to move forward to us as a local issue by the
Yes.
county planning board with that
Yeah.
Concerns.
concerns. So it's in the minutes, it's, you know, something for the planning board to consider.
Drainage from the roof. Where's that
From
going?
Circle Grove,
From that
it
roof.
drains away from our property.
Away from your property direction?
So our front driveway and our front yard actually drain out onto Circle Grove.
Yes.
And Circle Grove then drains out to the closed storm sewer of the cities. So that does not drain onto any of the neighboring properties.
Okay.
So all the runoff off the house goes to the sewer or wherever?
No, we can't send our water to the,
Or
so
the,
it's, yeah, the surface drain, there's no way to get there. So our roof water we collected in gutters and sent into this infiltration area on the back of the property and ultimately to the large swale that's on the south side of the property.
Okay, any further comments? So, I guess the summary in my thoughts, I believe that the applicant is correct with a lot of the discussion about the way the retaining wall is constructed, and you know, some of the things they've proposed surely, at least per our ordinance, would be acceptable. The one item that I still have some question on, and I think would be appropriate for third-party review, is some of the drainage calculations that are provided by the applicant's consultant, so that we can ensure that, once again, it's been properly reviewed for the city, and that we also are addressing concerns that the county has you know, put in writing to us. So we do have a third-party review ability within city local law now. And then the second item is we do have the applicant received, and I also received some discussion about city council
attorney.
and his opinion on the drainage easement, which we talked about at the last meeting, and a prescriptive right. I think it's good for the applicant to have that in writing, as well as the board to have that in writing. So I would, that along with the, and it's my understanding that there's also, he has the discussion about ensuring that there's a third-party review or an acceptance of
The city attorney said that?
calculations. I'm not sure of the exact language, but there was some discussion about having.
Yeah, Joe read it to me. He didn't. There's inter-office email, so he kind of highlighted what, he didn't want for the attorney's
I think,
letter.
I believe that it was his opinion that it has to be sufficiently technically reviewed, that's outside of his
Abilities.
abilities.
Joe's.
No,
The attorney?
the attorneys,
Oh,
the city
yeah.
attorneys.
That is outside.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, that's my
Right.
thought. Aside from that, I think you've addressed most of our questions on the plan. A couple notes on the plan that we talked about.
I agree.
That's all I
Yeah,
have.
I think the retaining wall is gonna solve itself with the aesthetic improvements you're planning to do. It's gonna look good over time, once you get it all done. But yeah, the drainage is what I'm worried about. So, you got a lot of calcs here. I would agree with that. Third-party review would be applicable.
I don't know if there's any other comments? Questions? Okay.
So you're sending the applicant away with a need for a third-party review on the drain and on calculations, is that correct?
Third-party review and getting written concurrence, which I'm sure our department will work with you on to get written summary from Dean on opinion about the drainage offsite. So, any other questions?
I guess if you have any questions.
Okay.
You're the answer.
I don't think so. I think we do have a number of people in the audience. I think at this time it'd be appropriate if anybody does have any comments, we'll entertain public comment.
I'm Marianne Shaughnessy. I live at 4 Spring Circle. Our backyards connect. We are on the east side of Mr. Racine's property. I don't know how many of you were here the last time, originally when this came in front, but the reason it was forwarded to you is because this work was done out of legal compliance. He had a meeting with the building inspector's office at the same time this wall was being installed, and there was no talk of this wall at all. It's just simple concrete blocks that are shifting. I actually have more pictures from the last time of now they are shifting. This rope here is the rope that they were talking about that shows the property line. They're actually shifting closer, and all of the rock is now coming onto our property. Here's the rock coming through onto our property, and now there's space where before it was together. I think that's the same picture as before, sorry. This is them shifting towards our property here. And excuse me, this is all the dirt that's coming over onto our property. So they are shifting, and I just want to put on record again that we have no problem with a house being built there, but he is putting an oversized house on a lot that, yes, is irregular, but he's putting a house that doesn't fit on that lot, and everything is self-created. He's brought in about 6 feet of dirt and grade. He's changed the grade, so it's not this is the law and I'm having this issue. It's, all self-created. He's brought in so much dirt, and I can show you original pictures. This is our house here. It looks a little bit different now, but this is his lot here, in the back there. And this is a picture from the front. before any construction was done. And now, this is the amount of fill that has been brought in to need these unpermitted retaining walls to be approved. There's just more pictures of the fill that has been brought in. That didn't show on any of the original plans when he was seeking variances for a 28 by 30 foot garage. He went in front of the zoning board just saying, oh, I just need this little tiny tip of a garage. And now he's back for more and more and more, and then doing unpermitted work and then asking for forgiveness for that unpermitted work. But this is what we now have to see, and we have dirt and gravel coming onto our property because of it. I did see in, let's see here. What? Oh, yes, yeah. Please. I don't believe this picture here where he was showing, I think this is, to be honest, more of a Photoshop picture, just like the one with where he's showing the trees, because this has never quite been quite like that. But I could be wrong about that. What he's doing is asking for forgiveness for doing unpermitted work, and now we have to look at retaining blocks, just concrete blocks that are put in. And it's not just me, it's the Brandons and the Bottoms, and now my whole backyard all along that wall, because drainage has been stopped, has mushrooms growing all along there. He came last time saying that there was a perforated pipe in there, and he just needs your approval. That wasn't true. It was a solid PVC pipe, and every time going in front of the zoning board, he said he would do 2 French drains in 1 pit, he would address the drainage. There's no need for this wall. There's no need for the amount of fill that was brought in. Can you just look this way, please? Sorry. This here was the original building permit and the original plan that was approved. It didn't show any grade change. It didn't show any finished floor elevations. And this was approved by the building inspector's office. I don't know if it's because he said, no, I don't plan to change the grade or what. But this is what was approved, and then he brought in all of the fill and all of the dirt just because. And I don't think that the precedent should be set to do unpermitted work and then just allow it to happen, especially when it's negatively impacting the neighbors and changing the whole makeup of the neighborhood. You don't put retaining blocks like that, or just take retaining blocks that are shifting and moving and just cover it in pressure treated wood so it does look like a bench. He should have to, if he wants a retaining wall, remove the retaining wall, put in appropriate drainage. If he wants the retaining wall, it should be off of the easement, because it's not just electrical lines, it's cable and telephone lines there also. So I don't know if cable, telephone, if they plan to or even are allowed to use the conduit that MLD is approving. Trees should be bordering our property. And then if he wants a retaining wall on that side to level out his backyard, then I guess that should be looked at. But we should have cedar trees along our whole property so we don't have to look at this wall. He's putting it in unpermitted and ugly, and then putting trees on his side so he can just look out his window at trees. I don't know, is there anything you want to add? We shared our concerns at every single zoning board meeting, and we have the minutes. You were provided with the minutes. I know the applicant hopefully accidentally, provided just every other page. There are, on the even page numbers, there are a lot of comments that I made addressing drainage last September, then last December, and then we lost track. I mean, we've been to 8 zoning board meetings because of this. So But we definitely, from the get-go, last September 2017, shared our concerns about drainage and an oversized house infringing on our property line.
I mean, there's really no need. I'm Patrick Shaughnessy. I'm with her. I just don't, there's really no need for the retaining wall, I guess, what we're trying to say is because he's just trying to have a flatter backyard, and he put it in without anybody knowing, so with pretty much no approval. He wouldn't need the retaining wall if he didn't bring as much fill as he did. So, I mean, it's self-created, then he put the wall in, now he's just trying to figure out a way around it, which he did, putting it on the electrical easement, so, which no one knew until we figured it out that it's on the electrical easement from the telephone pole all the way to the box. But then he found a way around that to put in another conduit for PMLD. So, I mean, I guess he pretty much does whatever he wants and then finds a way around it. So, I mean, we're not really protected as citizens or as community members because we can't do anything about it. It's pretty much up to whatever you guys allow him to do, so.
He's changing the makeup of the neighborhood, and while he's doing that to increase the value of his home, he's decreasing the value of my home, the Brandon's home, especially the neighbor on the north. Because of the grade that he has brought in, they are now in the shadows. He dug up their trees, he lost the court case, now he has to pay and replace the trees, but he has space to now put in his wall, so.
It all worked out.
So he's here asking for forgiveness for that too. And it's not okay. How is this the precedent that is set for the city of Plattsburgh?
Like he said there was these retaining blocks in bordering dense residential areas. He didn't say there were any in residential areas.
Because there's not, especially not garbage blocks.
I've driven around Plattsburgh and there's no retaining wall that's built out of these garbage blocks anywhere.
That are shifting towards our property with dirt and gravel coming already on. But we wanted to come here in front of you first before we take that next step. So. And that wall along our property doesn't have footers. It's just sitting there on top of gravel. All of the other retaining walls have footers, making sure that they're in there, solid, poured concrete. And this is what we get covered in pressure treated wood.
And it's before the winter. You know how the winter is. Water gets in there, snow gets in there, and then it freezes, and it's going to move anyway. So we're just nervous. And I mean, if you guys allow it, then it's just going to be there, and then who knows if they have to fix it or whatever. I mean,
from their own property, because he has destroyed enough of our property. We have actually, well, this is them doing the digging on the unpermitted, on the stop work order, during the stop work order. This is the swale that they want to send their water to. Just make sure that doesn't fall. This is where they want to send their water to, that right there. And this here is a picture of them during construction. I actually took this picture before any zoning board meeting. I was startled by a bang in my backyard while cutting down trees, just kind of coming onto our property. But you can see the swale here that actually acted as drainage for all of the surrounding neighbors. That was then filled in with dirt, filled in with gravel, solid PVC pipe installed, and then these blocks on top.
Okay, did you have any other information to submit for the record, or?
Oh, any of the papers there? I mean, I
This
can
is-
give as much as you like, because this is all of his plans here. Sorry, I don't wanna. None of which, until yesterday, were approved with any finished floor elevation or grade changes proposed. Just this site plan of squares, not providing any sort of finished floor elevation, knowing that just make it as big as you want and then ask for forgiveness. On this plan here, well, the one that he's submitting, again, at the first zoning board meeting, yes, the garage was approved and part of the deck, but only 6 feet of the deck over the setback limit was approved. Now, as you can see, and this is an updated plan because it's updated from Monday's meeting. Yeah. It was just a little tip of a porch, or a deck, excuse me, coming out over, 6 feet over, and you could see that in the original plan there from Joe's notes from the first zoning board meeting. And now he keeps designing his deck way out even with this 12.5-foot setback that was granted for the garage only, not the deck. So that's, again, something, if it's looked at and then approved here, he may claim, well, it was approved at the planning board, this plan was approved. There needs to be specific conditions put in place if anything gets approved, or else he's going to take it and think that he can do more and say, oh, I didn't know.
Because we've already talked to Joe, and Joe's in agreement with us, and he said he even told Mike about it, but it still hasn't been fixed on any of the plans. And I mean, you can't take my word for it, I understand that, but I mean, there's nothing in writing either.
But, well, there is something in writing. That right there was the only thing that was approved,
And
other
you can
than
see
last
where the
night, where, or the last Monday, excuse me, where only last Monday was focused on the special use permit that he absolutely did. It was, I guess, guaranteed because he could not terrace that part back any further. So it wasn't talking about the wall, or excuse me, the deck, because it was brought, he wanted, after the first September 2017 meeting, he went and he said, I need 12.5 feet, and it was approved. Then he went back in December for another 1.5 feet, and it was denied, and that's why the corners of the garage are cut how they are, right there. Now, since it was denied at that December meeting, he can't go back in front of the board for a year, I guess, for the deck. But he keeps putting it on there for whatever reason, I don't know. It's supposed to be 6 feet over the setback limit. That's all that was approved. So I'm not quite sure why it's back even 12.5 feet from the property line, even with the garage.
Some of that rises into the review authority of the building department.
Yeah, yep.
Same thing with enforcement.
I
would say
We're just saying that if you approve this site plan, he's just gonna use that this was approved, so I should be able to do it.
Right.
we will. Did you have any other items? If not, I do want to allow opportunity for anybody else that
Yeah.
has comments.
I think right now, that's, the items that
Okay.
I have to be submitted, but I just wanted to be sure that I shared all of my concerns, and, that if you weren't here, I don't know who was or wasn't the first time we came, really understands, and I know I talk really fast, but, understand what has really led to this, instead of just, oh, it's a drainage issue, and this is the first time this has ever happened, and we're coming in front of the planning board. It's not just a drainage issue, but because of unpermitted work, yeah, now it's a drainage issue, and because of the grade change that he has created himself, that didn't have to be created, now it is draining. It's a drainage issue, and it's draining onto my property, and their property, and onto his property. And our drainage is now blocked because we all use that shared swale, which, yes, was on his property, but it's similar to the shared swale that he's proposing to dump his water onto. So, I don't know why that was now blocked, or can properties who own that swale that he's planning to put his water, can they block it off, and then what? We're left in a swamp, because he is allowed to put a concrete block on an inch. It was 2 inches, but now it is shifting. And he can just put it there on an easement and leave it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, can you pass down the plans?
Sure.
My name's Andrew Albans. I live at 6 Spring Circle, which is next to them on the east side.
Mhm.
The only thing I have on this main thing is that talking about the swale and the ditch, I call it, behind my house, okay? It's not on my property. I think it belongs to the gentleman, people behind me. I'm not sure though. I don't know if the city owns it or who owns it. Right now, the swale that he's got running with the block sitting on top of it, it was this, you showed him a picture of that, right? Yeah. It wasn't that deep in the first place, okay? I guess they dug it out, you know. They put the pipe down, solid pipe, and they put the gravel on top, big piece of the gravel. Then they put those blocks on top of the gravel. I'm no engineer, but it seems to me you put a heavy block on gravel, it's going to kind of move, isn't it? I mean, you know, makes sense. Anyway, that pipe that he does have there now coming out is just the solid pipe. He didn't put the perforated pipe in there, which is, if you're going to have a real French drain, I guess that's what it's supposed to have. You know, but it comes out. Right in it, right here, I take this, right? That's where his pipe sticks out, okay? Now, there's some land here belongs, I'm not sure who it belongs to, but my land is right at the point of this, okay? And this pipe sticking out, the ground rises up right there, okay? The way it is right now, this water's gonna come out of that pipe, hit the height, it ain't gonna keep going into the swell that's behind it, okay? It's just gonna hit there and flow right back into their yard, and hence my yard also, you know? Okay, now, this is the pole. But anyway, the swale runs this way, behind my house would be up here, you know? And the land is higher, plus there's a lot of trees and everything else in there, thick trees, you know? And there's no way for the water, unless you just flood, you know, it's gonna get to this ditch back here, unless all this is cleaned out. You know? Like I said, I don't know who owns this ditch behind my house. It runs all the way to Austin Drive. You do, okay? But you know what I'm talking about, right? You know, and the way it is right now, you know, that water's got to go someplace. I mean, you know, not his problem, but I have a sump pump in my basement, and it runs constantly now. I mean, I can't imagine with that more water. Like she said, it used to be a field there, okay, when I moved in here 20 years ago, 21 years ago, and the ground was higher than ours, but, you know, now it's like, you stand in my backyard and look at his, it's almost eye level, okay, you know, it's above those concrete slabs of his by several feet sitting above them right now. Of course, he's gonna level that, I understand, you know. So all I can tell is all that water is gonna go someplace. It's not going in that swale here, it's gonna go into his yard and mine, and there's gentleman's yard behind him too for that. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Terry Brannon. I live at 9 Meadowvale Road. I'm diagonal to Mike's property. Just a couple questions. I was wondering, is it possible to move that retaining wall, not up right on the property line or an inch from the property line? Did they move it back towards Mike's house? Because right now, what used to be the swale, which was part on Shaughnessy's and part on Mike Racine's property, Mike has eliminated his part of the swale. He pushed it right, you know, any water that lays is gonna lay all on Shaughnessy's, nothing on Mike's. I mean, you're just eliminating half of the swale by putting that block wall right on the property line. So if you push that back up towards Mike's house, I don't know, 3 feet or whatever, and then plant the cedar hedge down along on the property line so that myself and the Shaughnessy's and the neighbors would be looking at a cedar hedge versus that waste block wall that is there now. And if, I know Mike has proposed to put some pressure treated lumber on the top and the front side of it, as it shows on the drawings here. Problem with that pressure treated lumber over time, with the sun on it, 2 years from when you build it, it's gonna dry, it's gonna twist, there's gonna be slivers, it's gonna separate. That's just the nature of the pressure treated lumber. Shaughnessy's has kids, and we know that the kids come out on the backyard to play. They're gonna be running up and down that block wall. Even though it's on Mike's property, the way it is right now, there's gonna be slivers, kids are gonna get hurt. I'd rather see, myself, the cedar hedge on the property line and the swale retained on Mike's property and the Shaughnessy's property. to help with the movement of the water, not just push it all on the Shaughnessy's. So so we look at a cedar hedge, and then you put the retaining wall on Mike's side of the hedge, wherever. I think that would make things a little easier, and I'm thinking for the kids too, because I know that they'd be running up and down that. I mean, that's just gonna be a play area. We're gonna get slivers and whatnot. Then I just have one other question, and I don't know that if you people can answer it or not. I'm just wondering how did they come up with the elevation of the house? How did they arrive at the first floor elevation of this? Or who decided that elevation? Who told the excavator to dig so far down to the footings as your starting point to go up? Because to me, the house is way too high, and I'm just wondering how they got into this mess.
Oh, look at this, Terry. You got the FFE right there on those two. I don't know when that was submitted or what it was part of.
And is that what it is?
I don't know.
The starting point.
Now, when he got the building permit, is this what he got, these elevations?
That's from
First
Mary Ann, so I don't know. This plan
When
was,
we originally got the building permit, it was only this building permit, this site plan, this site plan,
Yep.
and
but the
these
FFE would be
elevations.
on the site.
Yep. It wasn't, and this was the only thing that was approved. Then these, they don't have any, they do have a finished floor elevation proposed. This plan was denied, and there's no engineered,
What was it denied for?
this was, he was proposing another 1.5 feet for the garage.
Not because of the elevation though.
No, this was just the first time anyone had seen a
Gotcha.
finished floor elevation. It was not consistent with the building permit, and there's no engineered stamp on this. Then on the next one he went for, nothing, no grade change proposed, and on here there's no grade change proposed. This doesn't have finished floor elevations or grading. No stamp. Yep, this was the second one.
I would say ultimately, Terry, to get 100% answer on that, some of that goes back to the building department. You know, and the applicant is correct in this case, this is not standard for a single-family house to come in front of this board.
Planning board, no.
This is the first time I've seen a single-family house referred to this planning board.
I'm just curious how they came up with the elevation.
Yep.
And maybe, this is what happens if they don't.
And once again, the best place to get that answer is to get the record from the building department and allow them to respond to that. I mean, we can, once again, we can go with the good information you presented, but they're the ones that should have the complete record, the in-betweens, and outline that. The other thing I want to point out is technically the referral to this board was based on the retaining wall, the eastern retaining wall, specifically in reference to drainage. So some of these items I'm going to take into account that, some of these conditions you pointed out in terms of the decks and the variances, we're not approving that, in my mind. I mean, I'm one voting member, but in my mind, we're not approving the finished floor elevations, we're not approving, the decks and.
I was just curious how it was arrived at. I don't know.
And I think it's a great question, but I do think, just like you pointed out initially, that the complete record really stands in the building department to answer it fully, I think.
All right, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Can I just say one more thing? He, again, put multifamily and not single family on the application. I just wanted to bring that up and address that because I did bring it up last time. A multifamily isn't allowed in the R1 district, but he continues to put a multifamily, and I don't want that to get passed along again, and then, oops, oh, now I'm allowed to have a multifamily. And I don't know if that's even possible or not, but it's on there, again, after I brought it up the last time.
Do you have any objection of
Absolutely not.
crossing that out and
Absolutely not.
taking that? Okay. So multifamili's out of the application.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments?
Winslow Moore, 8 Kelvin. What is not shown here, this is details right here, because as it's shown in by the prints we got today, it will not work. What's happening, all the water's coming to me, and it will no matter what, because it always has and will always continue. The swale is way over here, and there's a berm that's kind of right here that you don't see. The two properties, Mr. Racine's and the property here, the swale was naturally right about here, and that's approximately where the blocks are sitting. So the swale that was there, that channeled all the water from even much more north, because I watched it for years. It comes down in the spring like a little river. Comes to this point, it actually has to come over here, because that's the only place it can get through, and then comes onto my swale, which goes all the way down, which I've got to keep clean, or the water backs up onto their property. So the problem that we have here is he's actually come down and he's closed off this little area where the water can come through. So the water from everybody above and all theirs just hits the retaining wall and sits there. It has no place to go. So he's either got to rework the swale, especially down in this corner, so the water can get into mine. Not as though I want it, but it's going to have to go that way. So if the engineers are going to have to get details on how they're going to do it, and the way it's shown, it will not work. This block here is way over here. There's a lot of detail that's very vague. But if they do it correctly, the water could be channeled to mine. But the way it's shown, it's not, and it won't. They can't. Any questions for me? I've watched this for years, so I've seen how it all flows.
The ditch on your property?
The whole swale or ditch is on my property.
And you maintain it, or the?
I maintain it, because I try to be a good neighbor, because if I don't, it backs up, and it makes a mess back in here. It used to make a mess over there, so I have to rake it all out, keep it in. It's quite a bit of work. I don't like doing it, but I have to. And I'm okay with it. But the swale is gone from the north, all the way to the north, all the way along that property line. It just doesn't exist.
Okay.
He's made provisions for his drainage, and it always came to mind anyways because it ran downhill. But he didn't care about these people or anybody up at the north, which I would think he would have to. If the swale was there, just like my swale, I have to let the water pass through. I could take the same argument, well, I don't care about anybody. If I block this up with a bunch of dirt, the water would just go and drown them out in the spring. You got to be a good neighbor.
So you really don't have any objection to drainage coming down your swale, or
I mean, it always has. So nothing's changed.
You're more concerned about fully detailing that bottom corner so that it's.
It will not happen. And I feel sorry for these guys because it's not going to make it to mine. It's just going to plug up, in that area.
Yeah. Thank you. Any further comment?
I just have one last question.
Yep.
The last meeting we had, when he first put this thing in, she talked about it earlier, he put that wall up there and everything else. Somebody sent him a letter, y'all read it into the report, that told him not to cease and desist, but remove those blocks, or start paying penalties in 30 days. Okay? He said, Mr. Racine said that Joe, told him, disregard that letter. Now, I don't know, does Joe have the power to tell the zoning board what to disregard that letter? I mean, and y'all asked him, somebody on there says, well, you got that in writing? And he said, well, no, he sent me an email. And y'all told him, you better get it in writing. My question is, did you get it in writing? I mean, and who overrode the letter? Does Joe get the power to, does he run the zoning board? Does the zoning board write the letter? Did Joe's office write the letter? Otherwise, those blocks should have been gone 60 days ago. I mean, unless he got penalized. If he's been getting penalized every day since then, okay, fine.
It was last month, I believe you're correct, incumbent on the applicant to go back and find out what the results are of that. The referral to this board was based on action by the building department, pending action, and part of that part of that action was the referral to this board. So I guess
Yep.
the
No,
applicants.
In your packet, there was an email from Joe McMahon, code enforcement officer,
Yep.
who has stated that he has allowed Mr. Racine to leave the wall in place with no further work to take place on the wall while this process takes place. If this project is denied or something changes, then he'll have to pay. But he has agreed that the wall does not need to come out while we're in this referral or approval process. There's a copy of that email in your file at this meeting.
And
And I hear that.
and
My
you-
question is, who gave him the
Yep,
letter
there
in the
was
first
work.
place?
Joe, that was done.
Joe gave him, but Joe wasn't here, I guess, at the time it happened. It was Joe's assistant that
Well,
gave him the letter.
somebody from the
I was gonna say, the building department is the one that enforces the building permit and the work. They're the ones that would issue that type of,
Don't you see what I'm
action.
looking at? I'm seeing, one guy says, hey, this is wrong what you did, take those things out, blah, blah, blah. And then the other guy comes along after his vacation's over and goes, oh, no, disregard with the letter you got. You can go ahead and keep them. I mean, that, you know.
I would say at this point, any question in regards to that enforcement should go to the building department. And how that, at this time, it's the referral in front of us is from them. If the applicant has reached suitable agreement on where that enforcement is, and that's where it stands.
Did this board have the authority to tell him to remove that wall if you all decide to do that?
We have the authority to review and approve his plan in regards to the wall.
Or disapprove.
Or disapprove. And then ultimately that I guess the authority of enforcement goes back to the building department, I believe. So, any other further comment?
I just think that if this was in any sort of plan, the building inspector's office would be able to have reviewed this plan, would be able, they do this for a living, they are the professionals, they would be able to look at the plan, know that this would, change drainage, alter the neighborhood, and they would have, come up with a plan to address this better than doing unpermitted work and then causing all of this. So, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. If there's no further comment, we did have a couple things that came out in the presentation of question. One was the swale detail down at the south end of the property where it discharges, and a little further grading detail on how that all drains, makes it into the actual drainage swale.
Are we done with public hearing?
Yeah, we are. Well, it wasn't a public hearing, it was open comment, so. I'm just outlining the couple of items that I heard. Board members can
Something you picked
discuss
up
that.
on, right?
If there's anything else you have question or add, and then I'll allow, obviously applicant to respond accordingly. The deck variance, I believe that's outside of our
It's not on here.
review, that's with the building department, although I'd make it clear to the applicant, in my mind, our board's review and approval of this does not approve that deck on the plan if it's out of compliance. The block in the east wall, retaining wall block, and the drainage review. And in terms of the block, I think we're having a drainage review done anyways. We should also have concurrence on the structural calcs that RMS submitted for the blocks.
I agree.
That would resolve.
All third party, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Concerns.
No movement versus some movement.
Correct. I mean, we do have pictures in the record. We really can't confirm, but if we have concurrence that the calcs provided are sufficient, then I think that's appropriate. City attorney's opinion on the easement or prescriptive right. I think that's already been discussed with the applicant. I've heard third-party discussion about it. I think that we just want to make sure that that's formalized in writing on the record. I noted in the letter, there was clarification about the utilities from MLD. Did you receive the separate letter?
There's an email from Joel Chase that's in your packet that describes that they have no objection to the placement of the wall within the easement, as long as the conduit is soft texture conduit will be installed for the future use of that.
Okay, so there isn't a separate letter you actually...
Yeah, the email from MLD to myself is in that packet that you have there submitted, clarifying
Is that Joel Chase?
Right, from MLD.
Yep.
Okay. So once again, the summary letter though that says there's a separate letter. You're not.
It actually came in as I was walking out the door. So
Okay.
I tucked in that back.
That's all I wanted to
Yeah, sorry.
make sure. Those were the items of question that I had picked up in regards to the comments, as well as additional information that was submitted, and then our initial review. Does the board have any other comments?
No, I think that's pretty thorough.
Agree.
Yeah, just, I mean, as far as making a determination, I want to clarify what we're deciding upon. One is drainage along the east wall, and two is, should there be a retaining wall allowed or not? Is that correct?
Well,
I don't know
clarify
that-
a wall is permitted, so I don't think this board has the authority to say if one is allowed or not. That's a zoning question, which the ordinance code says it is allowed.
Structural integrity.
I think-
It probably should be structural integrity of the wall, whether you're happy with what we're proposing, that's
Right.
still
But,
in a gray area in the ordinance.
right, but
And-
Joe McMahon sent this to us because it wasn't in the original
At the
plan.
time that the original packet was submitted, he did not have the drainage calculations, the structural stability calculations, or the final grading.
Okay.
So work had progressed prior to any details, so that's when Joe said you need to stop and put together everything to other expertise to present something that he wanted.
Work superseded those calculations?
I'm sorry?
Work superseded those calculations being in Joe's hands?
The blocks were placed prior to any formal submission to the building department, yes. And that's why the order was issued.
Can I state something? I know it's not the right time, but the wall is on top of the existing common swale. So it isn't whether he can have a wall, it's whether the wall is affecting the old swale that was there for years.
Thank you.
I mean, like I said, I just want to be clear, but I saw this letter from Joe. I don't know the date of it, but it says, it speaks to what you were mentioning, 30 days to remove the block retaining wall. Please note this order was issued in light of Mr. Racine installing this wall without our knowledge. Our instructions were to either remove said wall or seek approval from planning board to keep it. He chose to seek planning board approval to keep it. As such, the order to remedy has been suspended until the decision is rendered. Has that changed?
No. So we're basically at a standstill until.
So then the decision has been brought to us to either remove the wall or keep it, as well as drainage.
We provided, he says, this has been suspended while he seeks approval.
I'll just read it one more time. Our instructions to Mr. Racine were either to remove said wall within the time frame or seek approval from planning board to keep it.
Or seek approval from the planning board.
To keep it.
Right.
He chose to keep it, so we're waiting until a decision has been given by the planning board. I'm just trying to, I want to know what I'm going to say yes or no to. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Right. So the order before you was right. We have a cease and desist order that we cannot do any further work. So we either A, have to remove it, or B, seek approval from this board to leave it in place.
Okay.
I think ultimately most of our comments are in regards to just, once again, we've talked about structural stability of the wall. I don't think that the zoning ordinance gives us a whole lot of other ability to comment or question the wall, but the structural stability of it is definitely within the review. The applicants actually submitted calculations for it anyway, so, you know.
The grading, the wall.
We should have those reviewed.
Drainage.
So the
That's what
aesthetics of a
party's gonna
wall
get
are,
involved. What's that?
the aesthetics of a wall are zoning.
Once again, I think that the zoning ordinance in this regard allows for retaining walls. It doesn't get into a whole lot of other description. That's my
So as I read the city code,
Yep.
270 section 32, which is the section that allows the inspector to forward the plan to us, the building inspector in his discretion may require site plan approval if, in his judgment, the proposed construction, alteration, or change of use will affect existing circulation, drainage, landscaping, lighting, off-street parking, or other elements of the environment affecting the quality of life in the city.
Well, then, okay, that is a referral, but then you need to actually read Article 6, site plan review, and see what is within your jurisdiction to impose on a project. So although he is allowed to refer that to you, you also have a set of guidelines that you must use in reviewing projects.
Correct, correct.
So if you wanted to start citing chapter and verse, we're happy to, but this is not the time or place.
So
I'm just trying to give some guidance to the board on what it is we're making a decision about.
So essentially planning
And
comes
also,
down to
if I
structural
may
and
also,
drainage.
Yes.
there has been photographic evidence provided by the applicant to the board. I think most of you have seen this picture, which shows the wall with the string, and then above it shows the open swale that exists prior to construction. As you'll notice in the picture on the top, there happens to be a tree about 4 feet in front of that open swale. That tree is on Mr. Racine's property, and the wall is actually tight to that tree. So evidenced by this photograph and by the topographic survey, the drainage ditch in question was not a shared ditch. It is clearly on Mr. Racine's property and up gradient from the neighbor to the east.
So,
Where does he
Oh.
want to dump his water?
Actually, sorry, at this time, public comment is technically closed, so,
but we need to move ahead. It seems like what we need, it seems like we're moving at least tonight to a motion to, I guess, table pending third-party review
Oh,
of the.
that's part of it, definitely.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
so I think once again, I generally outlined the bullet points initially.
Okay.
So, the swale detail at the southernmost discharge to the property and how it enters into the existing swale. The structural stability of the block, which you provide calculations, will have third-party review. The drainage, overall drainage plan review, we'll have third-party review on that. Confirmation or written confirmation from city attorney on easement or prescriptive right.
Yep.
Discharge, whatever.
And discharge, yep. And obviously, once again, clarifying that, other components of the site plan, in regards to the size of the deck and even finished floor elevation of the property, that's not what I believe we're considering here. That's something that's within the building department's review. Any other items?
I think you covered them all.
Okay.
Should do it.
Very
If I
well.
could also
Very
request
well.
that anything that was submitted to evidence sign, if we could please get a copy of it for our records also, so we can properly address any comments.
Sure. That's appropriate. You can talk to Shalice about anything that was entered in the record. One last question I had. Aaron, you had talked about, there was a brief question about cost of the retaining wall and putting the hedge on one side of the wall versus the other, and then there was a public comment about moving the wall back and putting a hedge. Any thoughts on that, or you really feel this is the best proposal and exactly
This is
what?
the proposal the applicant put forward.
Yep.
Obviously,
Yep.
we can go on from there, but.
Okay, yeah, once again, it was
There
discussion
is
went
some
back.
general sense, though, from a feeling standpoint, that the hedge in front of the retaining wall has some merit, improved merit.
Right. I mean, obviously, in regards to that also, that, you have to look at the overall, if you just say, hey, we put a hedge in front of it, we go away today, there you get it.
I didn't
Obviously,
say
if
that,
we're
I
gonna
just-
incur the expense of the third-party review and everything else, then the applicant feels that he's already given
But that's.
Obviously, if you own a piece of property and a person builds a pink house next to you, there's nothing else that you can't.
That's,
So if you
that's
wanna-
apples and roast beef, that's different.
If you want to
That's
screen
different.
something that is obstructing to you, then you're
Yeah.
well within your right to put
Yeah.
planting on your property to
Yeah.
screen it.
But
We
that
as the
doesn't,
neighbors should not be
that has nothing to do
responsible
with
for protecting
drainage or structural, and that's what we're really looking at, right?
Yeah, as tied to the retaining wall.
I was gonna say, my only reason for bringing it up was it did seem like there was a little bit of possibility of agreement on cost and that type of thing.
Working in that direction, yes.
And,
The idea was if you're.
and ultimately, it
But
may,
yeah, right, again, I agree with what Jim has outlined, the third party review, and we fully accept that, and we will address those comments.
Okay.
Very good.
We'll leave it there,
Okay.
because obviously the ordinance that dictates how we move forward and what's allowed and not allowed.
okay,
Have a good day.
thank you.
I missed double overtime penalty kicks to be here as much as that.
I know that feeling, buddy.
Seton beat Lake Placid.
I know it.
Is there a motion?
I got this to be a motion,
Table.
motion to table it for additional
Third-
information.
Additional information, including third-party review, written, letter from attorney on the easement, use of. Bill, you're usually good at this.
For the, what do we got? Detail on the detail of the swale on the south side of the property. The block review as far as being stable, and the drainage review by your third party, a letter by the city attorney on the easement, and, well, the deck variance doesn't have anything to do with us. And we need a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Here, it's
So, planning board application number 2, or item number 2 would be planning board application 2018-14. This is for 6 Miller Street. We have a short form seeker. This is a final subdivision review, request to subdivide 6 Miller Street by combining 5 deeds separating into 2 parcels. The applicant, City of Plattsburgh. The plan preparer is Greg Polowski.
Good evening, everyone.
Jim, I'm gonna recuse myself.
Oh, thank you.
I think last month, the second portion of the seeker was not submitted, so I ended up submitting that for you guys.
Okay.
There's a parts 2 and 3.
Parts 2 and 3.
Correct.
Okay. Since last month, if you can just summarize, what
Well,
you
last
looked
month,
at.
the plans were changed because last month the planning board didn't want to perpetuate a landlocked parcel, which is the substation parcel in the back.
Right.
So we changed the easement out in the front, benefiting the back parcel to basically part of lot 2, so they have road frontage on Miller Street. And then we propose to create an easement for lot 1 to use that for ingress, egress, building maintenance and stuff like that.
Okay.
And the zoning board approved that last week, that plan.
Now, so you must have received a couple of variances from the zoning board?
Again, like I explained last month,
Yep.
they approved it on the plan as shown. But basically, they looked at the zoning table, and there are a couple of, I guess the main deficiency would be the open space.
Okay.
And those didn't really change too much by changing the plan. They were already kind of deficient to begin with, even when it was kind of considered one parcel.
Okay. I would ask that on the final plan for signature, that, all, confirm with the building department, the zoning board variances that were approved, and specifically note those on
Yes.
on the plan.
Yes.
With reference to whatever resolution and date.
Mhm. I'll do that.
Those variants were granted under.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think you generally addressed what we had questioned or asked for last month, as far as I can see. I don't know if anybody else on the board has questions.
No, I agree
comments.
with that summary. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Last meeting.
If there's no other comments from the planning board, we do have a public hearing scheduled with this, so I'll open it up to the floor to open the public hearing. If there's no comments, no concerns, I'll close the public hearing. At this time, this is for final subdivision review, so we do have a seeker form, or short form that was filed. You have that copy, Jim?
You want it? All right, I got it. From the last meeting. I think this be it. Check that out right there. That's it, yeah. Yep. Yes?
Jim.
Okay.
Jim.
Yes.
We want to check to see if this gentleman was here for the public comment on this, even though you closed it.
Did you,
Nothing to do with this one.
nothing to do with this one? Okay, okay. As far as seeker goes, was there any comments, questions, concerns?
No.
Okay. If not, do we have a motion to,
Make a motion on negative declaration of the seeker.
Second?
second? Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any further comments, questions for the surveyor for the proposed subdivision? If not, I think the only substantial comment was mine in regards to the noting the appropriate zoning variances on the final map for signature. If there's no further comments, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve said subdivision. Is it consistent with Jimmy's request to have those additional notes put on the plan? From zoning board approvals? Yes.
I'll second that.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, item number 3. This is planning board application number 2018-15, 120 Court Street. We have a long form seeker. It's a historic site review. Install Victorian style picket fence less than 4 feet tall along the yard and sidewalk boundary. The applicant is Charles Grimshaw.
Yes.
And the plan preparer is Mr. Grimshaw.
Yes. It's going to be complementary to the house, all within zoning, as far as height and the only thing I do, I don't know how it was submitted with the sketch I made up of maybe a couple arches where the gates are. But it's just a simple picket fence, like I said, just along the sidewalk, and that's it.
Materials for the fence?
All pressure treated, 4x4 posts, 2x4, and 3/4 inch pressure treated.
All painted white.
Probably painted green,
Green.
like same color as the house, actually.
Same colors, how?
Yeah.
And the lattice the same?
Yes, everything would be
Post,
painted the same.
green, and, yeah.
Correct.
I think the only thing that we were talking about in the pre-meeting was the possible height issue with where the gates are.
Okay.
we would want that to go back to the building department to have them approve it.
Okay, that's.
Like a
I mean,
conditional approval, as long as the building.
That's something I can work with. I mean, as long, if I can just at least even do the fence itself.
Right.
I mean, before winter. It's just, I have, like, I live in, you know,
College
housing,
kids, yeah.
And I've got kids in my
All over.
yard and up my
Yep.
porch and all hours of the weekend. And
Yeah.
I just want something that, you know, kind of keep them, you know, separated from. my
Razor
house.
wire.
Right.
Razor.
So ultimately, we're looking at wood fencing, pressure treated,
Right.
painted green to match the house.
Right.
With the only comment is that the gated arches be approved or coordinated with the building department in terms of height. That you're not, and you
Yeah.
don't have any issues.
I think that it said the height was 6 foot. Well, I can go 6 foot. I mean, you know, or no, I got 8 foot there. I don't.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what. Because I've been around the city and I have seen. I mean, I know what their, you know, historic district and stuff like that in the city. I know that. But, I have seen other arches around. I don't know. I mean, as far as I don't know what their requirements are.
I think it's aesthetically pleasing, you know what I mean, in terms of.
I put
approval,
8 foot. I didn't really. I just kind of threw that out there, you know. And, I mean, that would be the max, of course. You know, it'd probably be more than likely.
Okay, we'll leave that for you to coordinate with the building department, what's acceptable height-wise.
Okay.
Otherwise, the color and style, I feel is appropriate, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
I agree.
And it'll just probably be, you have to wait a season until you paint it, right? Pressure treated? You have
Yeah,
to
I
wait.
have to wait
Yeah.
till, I wait till
It
spring.
breathes.
So that-
Yeah.
Let it, yeah, exactly.
We know that will be there.
Right.
Okay. Was there any other comments in regards? If not, we do have a long form seeker with this application.
Glanced through and I did not see anything that stuck out to me as incorrect or needed to be
Right.
box that needed to be
Fix
checked
out.
a different way.
No.
If there's no comments, questions on that, do we have a motion for
Declare
findings?
negative declaration for this. Okay.
John,
Yes, I'll make that motion.
do we have a second?
Second.
Derek? Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now do I have a motion for the application?
I make a motion to approve application PB 2018-15, 120 Court Street for treated wood fence painted the same color as the house as submitted with conditional approval of the arches as approved and with the building enforcement officer.
I'll second that. That sounded good, Bill.
Okay. Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice drafting, too. I like your drafting. All right, man. That takes me back.
Okay, item number 4, planning board application 2018-1666 Court Street. Long form seeker, historic site review, repair of porch columns, install new deck boards and new support. The applicant is Patricia Evans, the plan preparer is Michael Archer. I believe that this applicant, and the application actually came in last month, we tabled it, and I think they are unable to attend again this month.
So we'll just table it again.
I think that goes along with our standard of
Standard policy.
Yeah,
of
policy.
the applicant being here too, or their representative to be
yeah.
here. So do I have a motion to table the application?
Make a motion to table application.
Yeah.
Second.
Second?
Mm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, item number 5. Local law review. We have a long form seeker Local law review request to serve as lead agency at seeker review for the proposed local law amending PUD regulation within the central business district. The applicant is the city of Plattsburgh. The plan preparer is Dean Schneller, corporate counsel. I believe in addition to the lead agency request for this, we're also considering any comments we have for said report back to the common council per the zoning ordinance. So our action really is to consider the city's request for lead agency and to provide them with our report on this change in zoning. Before we get started, we do have comment from the zoning board in regards to this
Action.
We also have county as well.
we also have a county, so if we can read both of those into.
From the zoning board, this is from the zoning board chairman, Ron Noland, amending zoning regulations for planned unit developments in the central business district. The board had no comments or suggestions, but did not object to the change in size, reducing PUDs only in that district to lots 3 acres or larger. The board also felt that allowing residential uses on the first floor could be acceptable, since the PUD would require a special use permit and neighborhood impact could be determined.
Okay.
County approved this action. Decision regarding referral 79-18, City of Plattsburgh zoning amendments to planned unit development regulations. The Clinton County Planning Board at its October 3rd, 2018 meeting voted 10-0 to approve this request, but to provide the following comments to the city. The city is encouraged to review past approved variance requests for planned developments in other zoning districts within the city that were eventually approved, and consider changing the planned development district minimum size requirements to better fit what is often allowed by variance in those districts as well. The higher density of development that is common to a city because of the availability of public water and sewer means that smaller amounts of land than 5 acres might be developed with multiple land uses that ordinarily would not meet a more broadly categorized zoning district regulation. Chairman Gardner, Chairperson.
Okay. So once again, I guess we're either agreeing or disagreeing in terms of the lead agency status for the common council to act as lead agent, and then we are advising in a report to them our recommendations in regards to the local law. I'll make it clear we're not approving the local law, we're simply
Advising.
Giving a report.
Yep, correct. So I think at a minimum, both of those comments from both the zoning board and the Clinton County Planning Board should be part of our final report. After that, does the board have any further comment?
No.
I think it's fine for the city to be
Lead
lead agency.
Yeah.
See a problem in that?
Okay.
Can you make a motion on this and pass this at all, or are we just commenting?
I think on the lead agency is probably appropriate to have a motion and
Make a motion to allow the city to be lead agency, or the city,
Council.
city council be lead agency.
a second?
Second.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then as far as the report, once again, I think we have, two paragraphs on comments in regards to this change to the PUD. Does the board have any further comments? Or questions? If not, once again, we're not voting to approve anything at this point. I think we're just simply putting those 2 comments into a report, into the record, and we'll get together, an approval report / letter back to the city common council accordingly. And
sounds good.
That the board has no further comment.
Agree.
Okay. Actually, why not? Do I have a motion to that regard,
So we don't have a comment?
that you don't have any further comments?
I'll make a motion that the board does not have any further comments on lead agency status or on the change of the PUD.
Second.
Besides, we already approved the city.
The city being lead
I,
agent.
I think this is unnecessary. We would have a motion if we had a comment to add.
Okay.
Ah, very good.
Being silent says we have no comment.
Is that a Robert's Rules thing or something like that?
No. It just seems weird that we're voting on not having a motion.
Whatever.
Okay. Well, you're voting to add those comments into the report.
With no addition.
With no additional
The two that we already have.
Correct.
So we are making a motion and seconding that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well said.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Item number 6. Planning Board application number 2018-18, again, a local law review. Request to issue a report per section 270-58 of the zoning code to comment on prospective local law regulating commercial cryptocurrency mining operations discussed during the August 27th, 2018 meeting. Applicant, City of Plattsburgh. Plan preparer is Dean Schneller, Corporate Counsel. So, in this regard, we had already discussed and agreed upon lead agency status at last month's meeting. This month's meeting, we are simply creating the findings of our report, or agreeing on the findings of our report. Again, we do have comments. Do we have comments from both county planning board or just the zoning board?
The county voted local issue without comment.
Okay, so, but we do have written comment from zoning board.
This is again from zoning board chairman Ron Nolan. Zoning regulations for commercial cryptocurrency mining operations in the city of Plattsburgh. The board had the following comments and suggestions. It was felt that allowing the use only in the industrial zone is advisable, especially because new and expanded operations would require a special use permit. This would allow ZBA determination of the impact on the neighborhood and require a long form seeker. A concern was discussed about the noise level allowed. Although the city noise ordinance might take precedence, 90 decibels at 25 feet seemed quite loud, especially since the location of the operation relative to property lines in other districts is not defined. It seems the noise ordinance should be included specifically as a requirement for any operation to meet. This brought up the main discussion of the ZBA. Much like drive-through businesses are not allowed within a certain distance of a residential use, the board suggests that there be established a distance from other uses, in this case perhaps residential and commercial uses, any non-industrial. Remember that when looking at these distances, it is property line to property line. Even if the actual operation is the required distance from its own property line, if that line is closer to another use than allowed, an area variance would be required. This would be another step in the approval process that would help ensure that the quality of life at adjacent properties is not unduly impacted. The operation would need to show how they are mitigating impact of the noise and other effects of the operation for the neighborhood. The exact distance was not decided, but we discussed figures from 200 feet to 500 feet. This would be an important way that the city can show that they are in control of the cryptocurrency industry.
Again, so I think it's appropriate that verbiage be added to our report.
Sure.
Yeah, that's tangible. It's a distance. It's good.
Sure.
No?
I don't know if there was any other comment or question in regards to the proposal.
So we're supposed to approve the city of Plattsburgh?
In this case, once again, we're not approving the local law. All we're
No,
doing-
just approve the city?
We approved
Or
that
just-
last month.
We're
approved
approving.
lead agency last month, right?
We approved the lead agency last month.
Okay.
Correct.
Yep, we approved that. So now all we're doing is authorizing our final report per the zoning ordinance quoted. or the zoning section quoted back to the Common Council for their final consideration of the law.
So I guess my only recommendation here would be the addition, well, I guess I have two recommendations. The first, pertaining to exactly what's here, would be under section 5, special use permit. So it's page 18 of the whole doc.
Okay.
So would only be in this paragraph, a special use permit pursuant to section 270 of the city code, etc., is required for any new commercial cryptocurrency mining operation. I would add or server farm to that, new commercial cryptocurrency mining operation or server farm. We define server farm in the definitions up at the top, a page up. It's defined herein as 3 or more interconnected computers housed together in a single facility whose primary function is to perform cryptocurrency mining. But I don't think that the way that it's phrased down below, it indicates that a server farm is maybe disconnected from the cryptocurrency.
You're saying it should be grouped with it.
The intent here, I believe, should be this should not only apply to cryptocurrency mining. That's a specific industry that uses server farms.
Right.
But it should apply to all server farm.
Mm-hmm.
All server farms.
Regardless if it is a
Cryptocurrency or a Google search engine, right? Or like a Google farm, or a Google server farm that's just doing searches for people, right? It's the same thing. They draw our preference power without bringing any of the benefits that program was intended to supply, jobs and etc. So I think that would strengthen the
Sounds reasonable.
the permitted use restriction.
Okay.
Good call.
This falls in my wheelhouse. I'm like, finally.
What? What?
So that would be, I think there are lots of other things the city can do to manage this situation, but in this specific ordinance, which is what we're commenting on, that would be the change I would make.
Okay. Did you have any other comments? I think you had like one other you said.
I guess it doesn't apply here. I mean, I'm in communication with the mayor about those, so
okay.
I think they can sit outside this, because we're just making comments about this ordinance itself.
Okay. Okay.
So,
any other comments? If not, I think I heard Kurt's one comment, and then the written language from the zoning board that would comprise our written report back to Common Council.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a good motion, Bill.
wait, can I add? Server farm should be added in the title also. That would clarify, because right now the title is only applying to commercial cryptocurrency.
So
mining.
commercial cryptocurrency mining and server farms.
And
Yes.
server farms.
Make motion to add server farms into the title as well as server farms. Where was the other place that we added that?
Title and section 5
Second.
were the places I found, but the intent will get
You impressed the hell out of me.
Where does it say? Section 5 special use permit,
Section 5 special use permit.
where it says, city code required any new commercial cryptocurrency mining or
Server farms.
server farms. So cryptocurrency mining or server farms.
I think you want to
Yeah,
add
that
it.
makes sense.
You want to add it again. At the,
In both of those spots.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we have an et al?
So cryptocurrency mining operation or server farms, and then existing commercial cryptocurrency mining or server farms. So add server farms in those two spots and in the title. And Kurt will probably second that one since he.
I'll second that.
I think you should.
I'll put my stamp on that.
And
Bada
zoning board
bing.
language. The language.
In zoning board language? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the motion.
That what?
In the zoning board language?
In the zoning board language.
Add the zoning board language.
Add
to
the
your
zoning
motion.
board.
Add to the zoning board
Yes.
language, okay.
To your motion.
I add that to my motion.
Okay.
All right, now we're all confused here, at least just me.
Yeah, that was rough.
Okay, any further comment? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
One more thing left.
one more.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 7, planning board application number 2018-19, 16 Pike Street. Long form seeker, historic site review, request to repair porch decking and pillars at 16 Pike Street. The applicant is Larry Veely, and the plan preparer is Mr. Veely. Okay.
What can I tell you?
Well.
First of all,
Yep, let us know your
it's
application.
already done.
Good job.
Well, what happened is I went there to, at the tenant's request, it's a multifamily unit, and I went there to repair a screen. And in the process of repairing the screen, I looked and there was a couple of rotten boards on the deck. Became a safety issue, obviously. So I came in and I jacked it up to replace the 2 boards. And come to find out the posts were rotten also. So I replaced them with 4x4s, which is basically the same as on the rest of the porches on the building. And then somebody said, no, you gotta have planning board approval to do this because it's in a historic district.
Yeah.
So I stopped and filled out the 13 pages and here I am.
Good story. Aye.
So it's built.
It's done. I stopped work, I didn't paint it obviously because I didn't want to go any farther until I found out what was happening.
The columns that you replaced, were they 4x4s?
No, they were wood. But those columns haven't been made in over 100 years. And if I was to find a millwright that would make those, it would be about $3,000 a pillar.
They
They're-
round?
No, they're 4 rounds nested together. And the ones I took out were rotten beyond repair, so.
Okay. Was there any other change to the original porch? Like,
You say columns and deck boards, right?
Yeah.
Deck boards.
Yeah.
so at the picture,
Stairs?
Stairs, yeah, there you go.
so were the stairs wood originally with?
Oh, they're cement.
Okay, so those were cement stairs.
This picture.
Oh, that's the side porch.
That's the side porch?
That's not the one I did.
That's not the one you did? It's a nice
The
picture.
one on
Hey.
the other side, I believe, is the one that you're looking for.
Oh, you tell me.
These are the 2 pillars that I
Ah,
replaced there. That's the front
okay.
on Pike Street.
Right, sorry.
This is McComb right here.
So
Thank
this
you.
one, you just did the steps on this porch right here?
No, that's been that way for, well, longer than we own the
I
building.
think that's like a comparison picture or
That's
something
a
like.
comparison to
Ah,
show you that the
I
rest of
figured
the
that.
pillars are 4x4s on the other porches.
Did the
Okay.
other porch look like this with the look, like the
No.
siding in the front?
No.
No, it was
Did
just,
did that other porch have columns?
It's right there. It's an
Yeah,
open
Google
porch.
Google Maps has the
One
old-
single
the
rail,
old spindles.
and this was, these were wooden posts like these.
You're a pretty
and
handy guy,
I
man.
replaced them
I
with
know,
the
every
4x4s.
now and then I show
And
up.
these are the
Look
deck
at
boards
you
that I
go.
replaced there. I'm glad you got the picture.
Can't
I had a
see.
hell of a time.
Right from,
I did receive them, yes.
It's hard to see here.
right
Well,
from
I
Pike.
don't know, because I'm an analog guy in a digital
That's the
world.
funky ones?
I
Oh,
struggle.
You did great, you got it to us.
yeah. This be the predicament that we be in.
Ah, all right.
little decoration on top there.
So he's replaced those 2.
Yeah, can you do something funky?
You
like that?
can
Make
see them.
light.
They're beautiful.
Those other posts, you know, those other ones, you said the ones that were rotten. I
Yeah.
can see the new ones versus the old ones.
Right there.
Are they circular? Explain, you
They're
said
like
nested?
four
Actually,
round, about 3.5 inch round pillars
Yeah.
nested together.
Oh,
right behind
okay.
you.
Like-
Right, yeah, right behind you. You can see it.
See them
I
now.
can? Oh, yeah.
That's the originals.
Yeah, you're never gonna make that look like that.
No. And I wouldn't want to put those back anyway, because if you look at those top and bottom, you can't see the bottom ones, but the top ones, that's a cast iron fitting that's up there. And that's all it is just set there. The pillars sit underneath those things, and they're not anchored to anything.
What, that decorative top is a cast iron fitting?
Yeah, and there's one on the bottom, was one on the bottom also.
So the cast iron fitting is mounted to the soffit.
It's actually not mounted.
Or
It's just resting
there.
on it.
It's the soffit is sitting on top of that
Yeah.
fitting, and the post goes up into it. I'm surprised there hadn't been some kind of an issue before, because there's, like I say, there's nothing holding them, somebody pushing against them hard enough, you know, other than weight.
You just
other
gotta
than
make
the
sure
weight of
there's
the roof,
enough,
there's nothing holding
gotta make
that.
sure there's enough weight holding them down, so if they
Yeah.
do push out of the way, they get smacked good, so they won't do it
Yes.
again.
Yeah. So what I've done is actually a lot safer.
So do you, you plan on putting spindles in?
No, I hadn't. In fact, those rails that are in there were added at the request of, well, it was Mark Beebe. It's, according to the code at the time, the porch is low enough that we didn't require them, but he said he'd feel a lot more comfortable if I added them, so we did add them to the old one, and I just replaced them with 4x4s now. Or not 4x4s, but 2x4s.
2x4s.
Well, I will say that your application does put the board in a little bit of a
Pickle.
difficult, pickle's a good word
Pickle.
for it.
Pickle jar.
I will say that normally, under normal application review, what you have proposed probably would not have
Been approved.
been approved.
No, no.
Um,
Because it's different, it's not all the same, it doesn't all look like it should, you didn't replace like for like, you know what I mean?
I mean-
You
Well,
said
if
they'd
you'd
be.
like, I'll replace the other two.
I mean, even if, you know, we didn't end up with, the perfect, set of rounded columns that matched, you know, where they have the four rounded sort of quad
Yeah, I understand
style.
that, yeah.
You know, we probably would have been looking for some type of round.
Round.
Traditional.
I
Traditional
did
column.
look at
Period.
getting the regular commercially available, I guess they're colonial style, but they're only 96 inches, and that's 98 inches. So that's why I said, you know, it's a structurally,
I think-
it's more solid to have the 4x4.
I think that, you know, once again, as a board, I think we would have a tough time to approve this after the fact. I mean, this is not something we would normally approve. I can say that, you know, maybe your proposal of a wrap for your 4x4s, you know what I mean? Like you're proposing, I understand the ones that you quoted are shorter, but maybe you have to get a custom wrap that would wrap those and
Make them look.
give
like-
More
it
period.
some
More
architectural
period.
style
Yeah.
similar to the, it may not be an exact match, but something similar to the original columns.
I'll see what's available.
But
So you replaced two and you left two?
Yeah,
Okay.
Two were
Because the other
rounded.
two were okay?
yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I know, without jacking them up and pulling them out of the base, I
Yeah, yeah.
can't tell if the base is rotten or not.
at this point, it's up to you with your application. My recommendation would probably be to table the application if you so choose. Until you can come back with some, you know what I mean, a proposal that would maybe give you some
A little more authentic.
architectural flair to
Yeah, a little more authentic period type of treatment.
Well, my concept on it is if you look at the other two porches on the building, they're all square. The one that's actually out of, I don't know
Kilter.
what you'd call it, but
Yeah.
is the wooden ones on the front.
I don't.
In fact, the other two porches you look, they've all been sided in, and the upstairs porch is all 4x4s.
It's tough when you got.
I was gonna say, unfortunately, this board is deemed to review these historic applications within
Headlines.
the appropriate guidelines. It doesn't always allow us to go back and look at mistakes of the past per se. In this case, though, once again, if you had come to us with this application, you know, before the work you had done, that would not have been something the board would have approved.
And other buildings have had to do.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know what I can find, and maybe I can find something that I can cut a circular post in half and face off the four sides or something like that. It's not gonna match.
I think that's something, truthfully, you can probably take the original picture, bring it down to the lumber yard and see what they can do. I can tell you if I know it doesn't rise to this, but in other applications, we've had it where the applicant has hired an architect and they've specified and picked the material, the necessary material to.
Well, like I say, $3,000, the mill rate
Exactly.
price would be $3,000, that's cost prohibitive.
For the big
especially a
posts,
rental.
yeah.
Exactly, and
I
I'm
agree.
not, and I don't think the board's telling you necessarily to do
No.
that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, we do need something more than a pressure treated 4x4 to
Yeah.
Like I say,
consider
I
this
could probably get
application.
something round and slice it in half and face off the four sides of the, so you'll have a semi circles.
There could be could be one way to do it.
I would be, truthfully, I would be more, me personally, I'd be more inclined to coming up with some type of wrap that is actually like
That's what I'm looking at.
a pre-engineered
You
material.
you got a 4x4, taking a circular, I think I can get something round and it's about a 3-inch, which is pretty close to what's there. And slice it in half and put half on
Yeah,
this side, half
it's the
on this
mill
side,
work,
like that.
yeah, I know
And they all run
exactly
into each other.
how best to make it. Down by Harkness, Adirondack molding, they're pretty good at that. Am I?
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, they are really good at that type of work. They're down there by Harkness.
Yep, if you bring back,
Yeah.
what's,
You bring them these pictures, you take a close-up of the existing ones, the white ones over there that haven't been taken out. You bring it to them, they can build you something, you know?
Again,
You want them to give you a spec, a drawing, to show you what they can do to wrap it like that. You see
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Not $3,000 the whole post. Oh, you know?
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if I can get the round,
Yeah,
3-inch round,
Yeah.
and then slice them in half.
I don't know, it's worth a shot.
I think John's recommendation about going to, once again, a lumberyard, mill shop, something to see what they can give you.
Mhm.
You know, we're looking for some architectural detailing that is somehow goes along with the period of what was originally there. I think we're open to
Trying to
suggestions, but.
trying to work with you, yeah.
Yeah.
And we
But-
have done this from the beginning, from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Once again, if, for the most part, if you would come to us in the beginning with this before this work was done, most applications I've seen would come through and say they would match existing. And that's usually
Well,
how.
my take on it was when I found they were rotten, it became a safety issue.
Yeah, I
didn't have
understand. I
time to
know.
wait
Yeah.
60 days
Nope.
to fix it, and then the tenant gets hurt and we get sued.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I fixed it so that
You
it's
erred
safe.
on the
and
side
it's-
of conservatism, yep, yep.
Yep.
If you brought
In
in
fact, I
like,
didn't even realize that it was something that had to be done, because I mean, it's a
You're-
repair. I didn't think it was any alteration or.
Yeah, no, it's a historic district, you're trying to keep everything the way it was. That's
even if
the
it
goal.
wasn't right to begin with. but-
Even if it, yeah, yeah.
The other comment I would say is confirm with the building department that they don't have any questions or comments in regards to the deck spindles. I think you're right about it probably is not an issue, but
Yeah.
sometimes that comes up in regards to your building permit. And
If
What do you
brought
want
back,
him to ask?
if there's any kind of spindles that are required per the building code.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything required because the height of the deck is less than I think it's 21 inches or something like that.
I think you're correct, but on the flip side, I think it's safe just to confirm
Yeah.
with them.
Well, I'll ask
And then
them.
it's.
For the railing, yeah.
And then, once again, if we go through with, an application and prove it without, and then you go to, and they say
And
you need
find
to
out
put
you need it,
spindles,
yeah.
then you're coming back to us again.
Yeah,
We
So
don't- yeah.
I want, it's a good, smart idea to confirm with them.
I will do that.
on the 4x4s, if, when you come back, you have like a little piece of 4x4, we'll say this long, and let's say Adirondack Mold Works, wherever, suggests something, and you bring some of the pieces in, say, this is what I got now, the pieces will go on like this.
They do a model.
Yeah,
a
this is
model.
what it'll look like when it's done, and we can say, oh yeah, we like that, go ahead, do it, and then we can approve everything, and then, whoop, you're done.
I've heard good things about those guys.
We can do that.
Just as an
Yeah.
option. It may not be as bad as you think. it's more of a
Unless
pain
it's
than
a
it is
I've
for.
been in the contracting business for 50 years. I know what this stuff costs.
Yeah.
When you say custom,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the price goes up through the roof. And again, on a rental unit, you know that,
oh yeah, I know,
you know?
believe me, I know.
Yeah, I know,
We're
you're the one
neighbors.
next
So
to us.
you're formally
We're like
agreeing
neighbors.
agreeing to table this then?
Yeah.
In favor?
I think that's appropriate,
Okay.
and your application is
Makes
pending,
sense.
you know, new information from you. Okay.
When's the next meeting?
It's, third,
It's fourth, or whatever.
Fourth Monday of next month.
fourth Monday or third Monday?
Might run into, start running into
Last
Thanksgiving.
Monday?
It's November 26th.
November 26th.
That's after Thanksgiving.
Right after Thanksgiving.
Right after
Put me on
Thanksgiving.
that meeting, or?
We would need to receive
You-
materials by Friday, correct?
Yeah, I think, once again,
This is very focused, I think.
Well, I don't know if there's a big rush for it because it's safe now and this is tabled. So there's not like a rush where you have to be at the next meeting quick.
And
you
he's
know.
burning money
Yeah, you
every
could-
day. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's safe, it's stable, you know. We'll table the application for you.
Right.
And then you've got time, it's not like a rush job where,
So if we shot for the.
no one's going to jail
December or
today, you know what I'm
January
saying?
meeting, that would be acceptable?
Yeah.
The only thing I would confirm
Plenty
is
of
just with the building inspector that they
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah.
any kind of order of time frame or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's when you're asking about the spindles in between, below the railing. Yeah.
Okay.
You can come back to us as soon as you need, you know, any kind of approval they have that.
Okay. We'll make it work.
Okay.
I'm sorry, so was there?
He's got house next
official
line.
motion to
Oh.
table that?
Do you have a motion to do? Do you have a question?
Well, my recommendation on the motion would be, to work with the applicant, but I think the motion should include a timeline, right? Because I'm thinking about the next case, right, where the applicant is not forthcoming and the applicant, you know, the work is done, right? And an open-ended motion could sit there for 15 years,
Well,
right? But
A
that's
year?
not the case of the applicant that we have in front of
12
us who wants
months?
to get this work and is doing the right thing.
12 months? I mean, we're going into winter now. I don't see the sense of having to do it in the winter, but.
Okay, so
Well, I think though, once again, as far as this application goes, we're simply tabling it until the new information comes. Where enforcement comes into place is in his building permit or non-building permit. Building department, if once again, you weren't compliant with what the building department was requesting, you know, like other applications that came to us tonight, they could issue
Yeah.
an enforcement action.
The building
Yes.
permit is typically open for a certain period of time, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think
Correct,
it's like
but-
a year, isn't it?
6 months or a year, yeah, I
Yeah.
just can't remember.
Once again, did the building department actually issue you a building permit, or they're,
No, they said just come here.
it's pending us?
Oh,
right, that's the issue, is that there's not a,
another Joe McMahon.
there's not a link there that would get that.
Okay.
So I'm comfortable working with the applicant on a deadline, on a timeline, not even a deadline, right? A timeline that the applicant is comfortable with. But there should be some, this shouldn't hang open-ended.
What would be a comfortable timeline?
Like he was saying, it's getting into winter, it's very hard to work these things. and
Well, the thing is, by the time you come back, it's gonna be winter.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah,
be in the
it'll
middle
be
of
winter.
winter.
Yeah.
And then they'll have to make, assuming they can make it, they'll have to make those articles for you. Those items, those, you know, wraparound slap-ons, you know?
Yeah, but that's not gonna take long. The
No.
idea is by the time he comes
So
back.
6 months, 8
it's gonna
months, are you
be-
thinking?
It's gonna be December
Right,
or January,
right.
so.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with 6 or 8 or 12.
6 or 8 or 12. Okay.
12 months. That's plenty of time to
Give
get.
myself all the bloom I can, give me a year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's nothing, it's no big deal. I make a motion that we table PB 2018-1916 Pike Street for 12 months to allow the applicant to provide the proper samples
Yeah,
Up
for the porch.
Up to 12 months?
Up to 12 months.
okay. You got it.
That way, you get to the spring, you can polish it off in the spring, and it'll probably take, once you come back in March, and you'll be done in April. You know, it'll be quick, easy.
Let me,
Go ahead.
enter some discussion into that before we, I have a little bit of concern with tabling an application like this for 12 months. I can tell you that some of the other applicants that we've had in the past, if we tabled it for 12 months, depending on the condition.
Yeah. The really bad stuff.
I mean that, and I just don't want to set a precedent.
Well then,
Right.
I'm comfortable with a timeline of, like 3 months.
I was
Right.
thinking six.
Something like that, but
Yeah.
to allow it to go out a
3
year.
months to come back to the board
With the samples.
with the samples.
Correct.
Okay.
Because
that
you
would
have to have
be-
the samples by next week to be at
Samples or
next
the
month's.
or the details.
Keep in mind, if the applicant comes back in the next 3 months, comes back with the samples, gets the approval, he gets his building permit, he will have the
Then he'll have a
timeline,
year.
he'll have
Then
the
he'll have a
timeline
year.
of the building
Timeline.
permit to
Yeah, all right.
actually complete it, which I think
How
it's
does that
6
sound?
months, 6-month term, something like that, the
Yeah.
building permit's valid, and I think you can request extensions, so.
So basically, if we did like a 3-month, table it for 3 months while you get your stuff together, then once you come back, you get your building permit, you can take as much time as you want to get it done according to the building department.
Within that year, but at
Within the
least by
building.
then
You guys have got the hammer, you tell me.
you'll have the schedule. Yeah, but we're a good hammer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We're
but I'm
trying to work with
72
you.
years old, I worked 36 years for the Department of Correction, I don't wanna go to jail, it's not enough.
You've been there long enough, right?
But my recommendation, or my thought is,
I like that.
up to 3 months.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that means.
We'll modify my motion to be 3 months for the applicant to come back with detail.
Detail
That's
or
the
samples.
January planning
Yep.
board meeting?
Bye.
Correct.
Yeah. Makes a sense.
Do we have a second?
Second.
That should give you plenty of time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, yeah.
Should give you plenty of time to come back
When's
and.
your cutoff date for the January meeting?
Good.
Thank you.
You would need your materials by
Ticket
December
on the,
15th.
just throw
I think I can get something going.
city code. But our site review.
You know, and if there's
allows for review.
if there's a problem, just talk to Joe about it.
Yep.
And Joe will get back to us or whatever.
of the retaining wall.
Okay.
Allows
Sounds
for
good.
review
Thank you very much.
For harmonious use.
Do we have a motion
materials
to adjourn?
and
I make a
harmonious
motion
use
to adjourn.
materials with the site and
About
the
3 hours ago.
All in favor?
Hey,
Aye.
Aye.
Bada bing.
Thank
So,
you.
I mean, if
holy mackerel, there's a marathon tonight.
concerned about the materials.
That was a little rough, boss. And there's no pizza and beer waiting for me right here? I'm telling you, I got a problem with it.
Just be here, the town always
Huh?
does do dinner before.
Anything. I'll drink
The whole
it, you
thing
know?
I've been saying about
I'm not
Jack
taking
Earl
Coors
and
Light.
drainage. That's all we have to worry about.
I thought you were.
Huh?
Yeah,
No.
So you may drink
it's
Coors
not all
Light,
you.
but like,
It's
I
not the
just
only.
texted my husband and I have a decent beer waiting.
Once
for me
the
at home.
site.
Well, God bless your heart. You
Once
should
the
all,
site